thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to have you on the Modern Startup Marketing Podcast. We go back, well, we went to the same business school, but we recently—
a year apart.
We're a year apart. Yep. And we recently were talking about marketing needs at your startup, and but I've been following you because I follow everybody that comes out of business school and starts something there, or is during school starting something there. I think it's fascinating to watch that process and just to see the companies grow. So Jen Saxton is the founder and CEO of Tot Squad. It's a startup that was founded in 2010. So you were literally just coming out of business school, right?
I won the business plan competition.
That's right. That's right. And so you really knew you were onto something, right?
I was hoping so. That's for sure. I at least had the best written plan.
That's what it takes, right? So the company is based out of Los Angeles in California. It's about 15 people, right? 15 or so.
Well, it's all changed since the acquisition. Yeah.
That's
so
right.
Now it's much smaller.
Okay, got it. So yes, so I was just about to say the baby gear cleaning part of the business just got acquired this year, which is so exciting. Baby Quip, right? Acquired that part of the business. So how many people now is Tot Squad made of?
Yeah, I mean, basically the way I talk about it is that I started the business in 2010 as a baby gear cleaning service with this vision of being like the geek squad for the baby industry. And we scaled that to open service centers in 10 cities inside of Bye Bye Baby stores where you could get your stroller or car seat cleaned. And we were really a technology-enabled services company, but we employed a lot of hourly workers who were in those cities, delivering the services directly to families there. So we actually hit a peak of about 25 people. And then when we sold the business, which was crazy because we closed the deal on March 12th, 2020.
No way.
I mean, I cannot not recommend highly enough trying to close an M&A deal on the heels of a global pandemic. It's like the most stressful thing I've ever been through. So we sold off 90% of the revenue in the business as part of that transaction, and then have basically gone through a restructuring now. So we're effectively a new startup. So I've updated my LinkedIn. I'm like, we have a new company started in 2020. I've had to rebuild the team because most of the staff got acquired as part of the acquisition. So now we have about 4 full-time people. And a couple of contractors, of course, always, and have raised new money towards the new business, right? But it was just getting confusing when investors and people would see like, oh, you started this 10 years ago, and it's kind of like, no, now I'm positioning it as a new company.
It makes sense,
but we're basically starting over from scratch.
It makes sense. Are you going to keep the name? Do you think you'll keep Tot?
We're keeping the name. It was one of the key assets that we kept in the transition. And I'm sure you're going to have me talk about what we're doing now and why and all of that.
Yeah. And then the funding for before the acquisition, you had like $3 million in funding, I think.
Yeah, I raised like 3.2 million, and about 600,000 of that is what is towards the new business.
Awesome. Okay. So you talked about what it is. I just want to kind of give a high level. Tot Squad is a baby services marketplace that connects new parents with health, wellness, and safety services like car seat installation, lactation consultants, sleep consultants, and more. But is the car seat installation still part of that?
Yes.
You kept it.
I sold cleaning and repairs, but I kept car seat installation because we were already operating it like a marketplace.
Awesome.
We have hundreds of car seat techs all over the country, so that when you buy a car seat on Amazon, we could match you with a local technician to come install a car seat. But that's the crazy part of the whole acquisition story, was that on March 12th, we sold off all the business. All we kept was car seat installation. And 4 days later, Amazon and Walmart both shut off all in-person services due to COVID. So we watched our revenue go from, like something really meaningful to literally non-existent in the span of 1 week, which was just crazy.
Yes, but it helps that you have the, oops. I hear some echo for some reason. It helps that you have the other parts of the business, right? So the virtual consultations, of course, the in-home consultations that you just mentioned with Amazon and Walmart when buying a baby-related product. And I love this, like the tagline that you guys use, because every parent needs a squad. So that's
Yeah.
It makes sense that Tot Squad, right? Every parent does need a squad. And I actually recommended, my sister-in-law just had a baby. He is 2 months old or 3 months old. And like she's in another country. We cannot go visit her, all the stress, all the questions. And so I told her, you probably need someone to help you out here. If you can't find someone that you really like locally, right? Sometimes, and you have different questions, it's very cool to be able to connect with someone virtually and have those consultations.
Absolutely. Well, and one of the things that we've done that's really differentiated is with sleep consultants specifically, you can actually book a 30-minute consult for $50 through Tot Squad or through Walmart.com or whoever. Instead of having to buy like a $500 package with a fully customized sleep plan, if you just have a couple of quick questions, we've been able to create that opportunity for families to get quick support, which is not really the traditional business model for that service category. So the real vision for the new business is that we want to revolutionize the baby registry the way that Honey Fund revolutionized the wedding registry a decade ago by bringing services and experiences to millennials who don't want more stuff, right? We don't want more china and silverware. We want a kayaking trip down the Mekong or whatever. And the same is true for millennial parents. We tend to live farther from our extended family, right? We don't have grandma and mom living in our household showing us how to breastfeed. And especially during COVID, when extended family can't travel to be with you when you're welcoming a new baby, being able to turn to that outside squad of service providers and support and help is so crucial. So we really are working to bring services and experiences to the baby registry, which we just soft launched with Walmart.com a few weeks ago.
That's awesome. I love that you gave that explanation way better than my explanation, obviously. So I want to ask you, I ask everybody this, what does marketing mean to you?
My gut instinct is to reply to that with some like MBA level definition of the word marketing. But what marketing means to me is really how you communicate your vision and your offerings to consumers, which I guess for some companies might be businesses or whatever. But I really consider us a B2B2C company because we are selling through the retailers to end to consumers and through partners. And that makes marketing more challenging when there's kind of an intermediary between you and the end consumer and trying to kind of maximize your ability to communicate with that audience. But me personally, I love sales. I love networking. I love biz dev. Like as a CEO, basically almost everything in my job is sales, right? I think fundraising is sales, talking to investors, selling them on your vision, recruiting and building a team is sales, and getting people excited to come work for you, especially when you have to ask them to work for less than what they could make elsewhere. And then all of the partnerships and relationships are sales, and same thing, right? Then marketing is sales. So my personal definition of marketing really kind of revolves around selling.
You might get some folks that are going to have a frowny face because you know how it is. You know how it is with marketers and sales and how you like, what is marketing for? Well, it's for sales. No, it's for the customer, and like constantly trying to one up each other, but it shouldn't be like that. We should all be a happy family, right?
I really think they are two sides of the same coin. I'm just saying that like my personal relationship with marketing is more sales focused.
Yes, that would make sense. Absolutely. So I talked about the company a little bit. You talked about the company. I'm curious, when you bring on the sleep consultant and I want to talk to them and like pay the $50 and ask them my questions, how do I know that they're good?
Yeah, so obviously, from a quality control perspective, we vet all of the providers on our platform. And for the initial categories, we have over 60 different service categories on our roadmap, just because the kind of pre and postnatal services and early childhood services industries are extremely fragmented. And there's really no national brand name player in baby proofing or lactation consulting or sleep consulting or any of these things. So we really want to be the company that is the tip of your tongue first place that you recommend people come search for those providers, which is why we make it free for providers to sign up, but then we do vet their credentials. So everybody on our platform so far has some sort of outside certification. Obviously, lactation consulting, nutritionists, we do a lot of pre and postnatal nutrition counseling, helping families introduce bottles, introduce formula, introduce solids, deal with picky eaters, those things. That's like a regulated industry. Sleep consulting is not regulated. So there's a lot of different quote unquote certification programs out there, et cetera. But what we're really trying to do with our platform is add more transparency to the kind of research and coordination and booking process. Right now, it's really hard to tell if you just go post in a mom's group on Facebook, hey, my baby never sleeps, I need sleep help. Can anybody recommend a consultant? You get like 200 comments. And then it's like, well, which one of these people does cry it out versus a more gentle sleep training method? Like, which one costs $3,000 versus $300? Like, there's just no transparency. You have to go to all these different websites or call all these people. You don't even know if they're available when you need them. And so we're trying to enable parents to find providers that match with their personal parenting style or philosophy, or even maybe a way that they identify. If you are an LGBTQ family and you would prefer to work with a provider that has a lot of experience working with people like you, we want to enable that transparency so that you can find providers that are a great fit for your family.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That really clears it up. And then I also wanted to ask you, before we go into like the actual questions that I sent over to you to think about, you decided to go B2B2C, sell through retailers. Why did you make that decision? And I think I might know the answer to that, but I'd love to hear it from you. Like, why not go straight to the source?
Yeah, it's interesting as we've gone through this pivot, from being a baby gear cleaning services-based business to being a technology company where we no longer deliver services, we just connect people with services. It has, I just lost my train of thought. You're gonna have to edit this out.
That's okay. The question was, why do B2B2C versus B2C?
Why B2C? Okay, I know what I was gonna say. What was the sentence I was just finishing? So this is pregnancy brain.
You said totally. I totally understand. It's like COVID brain.
I know what my answer is. I just feel like I had a great intro to where I was going, and then I got lost.
You were saying it's a technology company, you're providing services.
Okay, yeah. So I'm connecting people to service providers. So in the last 12 months or so, I have seen like 10 new companies getting started. In fact, some coming out of MIT and Harvard that are trying to kind of tackle a similar problem to what we're doing. Now that I have become a mom and saw this new opportunity, it took me nearly a decade in the baby industry before I kind of found this hole. And as I look at all of those other startups that are entering this space, they don't have the unfair advantage that we have, which is this legacy brand name and established relationships over the last decade, right? Because we've been working with retailers and other folks through the legacy business. And so we are really leaning in on partnerships as a growth hack. All of those other would-be entrants in this industry really have to rely on paid customer acquisition through more traditional marketing channels, because what else are they going to do, right? It's going to take a long time to like build a following using influencer strategies or grassroots social media. They're really going to have to raise a ton of money to do paid ads to acquire customers. And what we're able to do, because we have the brand credibility and relationships in place, is I can walk into a place like What to Expect or Baby Center, which has like 30 million viewers, or not viewers, just 30, they have 30 million active monthly users on their platforms, and have a serious conversation with them about adding a button to those random, discussion boards that talk about potty training that says, connect here with a potty training expert, right? So I have the ability to get those bigger partnerships where there's already an audience in place, and then pay the partner on a variable cost basis. So basically, we're doing a rev share back to the retailer or the media site so that they're monetizing every time a service is sold. But that means we don't actually have to have cash outlay upfront and then like hope and wait to recover it through the lifetime value of the customer. So it really makes us a much more capital efficient company to be able to go through these partnerships.
That's amazing. I remember, whoop, that's just me that's hearing that echo. I might have to cut that part out too. You can't hear it. So great. And you, when we were talking last in the spring, you were looking for a paid marketing person, right? To do paid ads. Are you doing that right now or not so much?
Not so much, but I mean, obviously our thinking was that as we launched our new platform, we've got sleep consultants, lactation consultants, et cetera, up on our site now where you can actually search and compare different providers. We needed to just get some low-hanging fruit, people with intent to purchase those types of services to come on as users, right? And we're using services like Hotjar to like look at how people are using our website and kind of see what the hot spots are, where is their mouse hovering, etc. And so we've been doing some small scale paid customer acquisition just for testing purposes and product iteration purposes, but it's not our core growth or acquisition channel.
Got it. Makes perfect sense. Let's go back to the questions that were actually on the list now. Can you talk about like, how did the company got started? So this was before you had your first child, right? What were you long before? So what were you thinking about? How did this all come to happen?
Yeah, the origin story is after I graduated from Duke, I was working in management consulting. And at some point in time, all of these women were turning 30 and trying to make partner and start a family at the same time. And they all left. We ended up with no female partners at the entire firm nationwide. And it struck me like, wow, I'm 23 and one day I want to have a high powered career and also a family. And like, maybe this isn't the career for me, or like, how do I achieve that level of work-life balance? And, this is like 2005, 2007 timeframe, like long before the lean in movement, or like, I think really before work-life balance was such a big buzzword. And I was just really passionate about it. And so when I got to Kellogg, I had been thinking a lot about this idea that millennials were obsessed with experiences and work-life balance. And, instead of collecting, I don't even know, tchotchkes, we wanted to go to concerts and like travel and spend our money in a different way. And I thought as millennials start to have children, this trend is really going to explode. I consider myself like the oldest millennial. I was born in 1982. I think I'm called an exennial on the cusp. And so I was right in hindsight. I can look back 15 years and say that absolutely did come true. So that was kind of my thesis when I got to business school was I'm looking for business ideas that would improve work-life balance for millennial parents. So anything I can do that would save busy moms time or frustration, there's got to be an opportunity. And that's when I had 40 ideas in a spreadsheet that I like went through all my Kellogg classes with, and had all these different students helping me work on narrow down the list and writing the business plan and all those things. And the idea that like cleaning strollers and car seat was really hard and every mom I talked to wanted it, but nobody else was out there doing it. It just seemed like a great opportunity. And, I never in a million years thought I would grow up to like literally clean baby poop. After I graduated from business school, I was like paying off my tuition at my full-time strategy job. And on the weekends, driving a van and like cleaning vomit out of car seats on hot days. And everybody's like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you so passionate about like cleaning baby crap? And I was like, well, I'm passionate about like solving problems. Like, it's really fulfilling when a mom would come up to you and be like, oh my God, I was so embarrassed to be seen at the park because my stroller was disgusting. Like, thank you so much. I didn't even know how to tackle this issue. So I think there was a lot of feel good there for sure, but it was many years, 8 years into the process before I had my daughter. And then that's when I realized like, holy crap, new moms have way bigger problems than just dirty strollers. Like, there's so many other services that I need. And what if I could take this relationship with Amazon where I bundle car seat installation with a car seat, and I could say, if you're buying a breast pump, would you like a lactation appointment, etc. And so what we're finding now, that we've started expanding all of our service categories, is that a lot of baby product manufacturers are approaching us or learning about us through the retailer, and want to bulk purchase services from us to offer them for free to their consumers and their product users. A great example, a meeting I had last week with a kids allergy introduction product that helps you, as young as 4 months old, start introducing peanut powder into the baby bottle to prevent childhood allergies. And they were saying, oh my gosh, you have a service on Walmart.com where you offer, an educational session with a nutritionist about how to prevent food allergies in children. Our biggest challenge is educating our consumers. Like, we would love to be able to offer our product alongside an educational service where a family can get one-on-one questions answered. So things like that are just starting to really take off for us. So the B2B2C element, just to circle back on that, is not only just that we're selling through the retailer to the consumer, but sometimes now we're actually selling through the product manufacturer to the consumer.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So let's talk about, let's go back to when your team was 25 people, like at the peak.
Yeah.
How did you structure the team? Who was there?
Yeah. So I would say that in general, I had a marketing person and an operations person and a finance person that reported directly to me. And then most of the more hourly people or kind of middle management type of people reported up through the operations person. I think at some point we had 2 marketing people, but in general, marketing was usually a single person internally, and then outside experts or help for, specific initiatives. Right. If we needed to hire somebody to do SEO, that was more of a one-off than a permanent position for us. But I think it was working with my executive coach, which I highly recommend people invest in, that helped me figure out what are my strengths and what are the things that I love about my job. Startups are so hard and so exhausting, and you work so hard. So you have to have a great team of people that you love coming to work with every day, or you can't work this hard. And if you're doing, obviously in the beginning, we all have to do lots of jobs, right? I cleaned the baby vomit for a long time. I've done every job in the company. But eventually, if you're going to have like a long-term level of like sustainable happiness in your job, it's really important to figure out what are your strengths and what do you love and how can you focus on those. And for me, it was identifying that I love sales. I love networking. I love speaking on panels and PR opportunities. I do a lot of TV appearances now. Those types of things really excite me and allow me to share my enthusiasm with other people. And that's what I'm great at. I have a math degree and an MBA. Like, I can build a financial model, but I do not love that. Like, I've got to hire somebody else to do that because it's energy draining for me. And I really want to focus on doing the parts of my job that give me energy and build a great team to do the rest.
That's so important to mention, right? Like, what do you actually love doing, and then do more of that and hire the other people that maybe it's something you can do but would prefer not to, or if it's something that you're not as strong in. That comes up in my conversations quite a bit. And
I was just going to say, I think it's important for managers to remember that with your team as well. If you identify that like you've hired somebody for a job, but they seem to be really passionate and like leaning in on something else, like, I hate the corporate culture where people are constantly telling you about your weaknesses and things you need to work on and improve, instead of just figuring out like, what are the things you're doing a really great job at? Like, let's have you do more of that and like find a way to carve out a role for you. Because that's where I think people build loyalty and you can achieve the greatest results.
Yeah, absolutely. To ask you about your now new trajectory with now you sold off a part of the business and you're starting kind of from scratch, right? You have a new business that you're talking about. Are you thinking in terms of, okay, now we're nimble, we're a startup and we've got these growth targets, and are you planning to build it like to X amount of people, like sort of like growth year over year, the typical startup, or what are you think? Do you want to keep it lean and then maybe sell off more of the company? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't really think about it in terms of team size, right? For us, since we're building a two-sided marketplace, we need a large audience of consumers and we need a large audience of providers. So the demand side and the supply side both have to have a lot of people. So I really think about growth in terms of it's a metric called marketplace liquidity, which is, do you have enough supply to meet the demand? Do you have enough demand to keep the supply happy? And really finding that balance that enables transactions to occur, versus what is the internal team that we need, like at a management level, in order to enable that to happen. So I am going to be kicking off a fundraise in the spring, which will certainly be an adventure, fundraising while 7 months pregnant. But it's also maybe a silver lining of COVID is that when you're doing everything over Zoom, people can't necessarily see your baby bump. It's like the one time ever where pregnant women won't be discriminated against in the fundraising process. So let's hope that doesn't become an issue. Although being in the baby industry, it's almost an asset for me more than a liability, because I'm really close to my consumer right now.
Yeah, very, very, very close, right? Awesome, great. Marketing. Let's move on to those marketing questions. Channels. What is working well for you right now? And feel free to dive deep on one or two that are really working well. Maybe like why you think they're working really well.
Yeah, I think I literally just hired a marketing strategist for like a 5 or 10 hour engagement to help me clear my head a little bit, because I feel like we're getting pulled in a lot of different directions. And I think every opportunity is a great opportunity. And I want to do every partnership. And then sometimes the partnerships end up being really good. And sometimes they end up being a lot of energy for no result. And so I love and thrive on a great framework. So I literally told this woman a couple days ago, I was like, could we just go back and do like a brainstorm session where we go back and we do like the 5 Ps and the 5 Cs or whatever the new one is, the 4 Es, and maybe do a SWOT analysis, because we know we have this legacy brand name and these legacy relationships and things that we can leverage, but we haven't really taken that level of structured, framework-driven approach to think about our marketing strategy. And it feels very much reactive instead of proactive right now, because we're getting a lot of incoming leads. I mean, we did 100,000 in revenue the last 2 months from incoming leads that were driven by Walmart talking about the new services for sale on their website to baby product manufacturers. So I was like, oh my gosh, like if we're getting that much traction incoming, imagine if we actually invested in biz dev and had somebody doing outreach to all of these baby product companies that sell through that retailer. So I'm just trying to take a more structured approach and like almost take a step back. So I felt like we were like kind of acting very reactively from a marketing perspective, and I want to figure out the structure. So I think the answer to your question is I don't actually know which channels we're going to lean in on the most, but if I had to guess, it's partnerships.
Yeah, that's come up a bunch. So seems like that's the one to really lean on. Prior to selling off a part of your company, what was working really well for you at that point? Like what kind of...
I was very much a grassroots marketing driven business. We did, I don't know, 2.5 million in revenue on less than $5,000 in paid ads. So I really do not have a lot of experience with paid customer acquisition. My strategy was always designing mutually beneficial partnerships. In the case of the cleaning service, it was collecting data about our partnership relationships. So for example, when somebody would come to a Bye Bye Baby store to get their car seat cleaned, it's a 30 to 60 minute long service, depending on how dirty your car seat is. Well, guess what? Mom and baby are trapped at the store. Like, we have their car seat. They cannot drive away. So they are going to go inside and shop. And so we would collect exit surveys at the end of those appointments where we would ask the customers, like, have you ever shopped at this store before? Did you make a purchase today? How much did you spend? And we found amazing results that were showing like the customers were on average spending way more money inside the store shopping during their service than they were on the actual service. And so that gave me a lot of leverage in negotiating those relationships and convincing the retailer to invest in marketing in terms of doing bag stuffers, putting a little flyer in the checkout counter for anytime somebody in the store is making a purchase, promoting the services, putting up in-store signage, banners on the outside. I always found that in working with partners, if you give them already created marketing materials, in terms of draft social media posts with great images or photography, draft newsletter content, draft blog posts, they're way more willing to put it up if it feels like it's something meaningful to their audience and their customer, and it's already done. If you make it really easy for them, they will usually do it. So I really leaned in on leveraging those relationships through a great sales and just, data-based sales strategy, and making it easy for them to promote us to their existing audiences.
I just had someone on the podcast a few sessions ago, and they're also B2C and they're also within retailers, and they talked about the power struggle. Like retailers, they like having that power of, yeah, sure, like you can come in here and take up the space in this aisle, but there's all these other players and I have the power. Versus when you have a brand, then the power comes back to that brand. So do you feel like it's sort of similar in the space because nobody really has like the brand leverage right now, and that's what you're trying to build with your brand and the marketing that you provide to them?
I think we're different, right? Being a service provider, it's almost more like experiential retail, that's helping them drive foot traffic through like a gimmick effectively, and then create a captive audience inside the store, which is very different from just a product that's on a shelf. So again, in my cleaning business, I never really had any competition. So it's not like I was worried about them having a partnership with a different baby gear cleaning service. It was more about getting them to prioritize marketing the baby gear cleaning service versus their ability to charge a product brand to do a paid newsletter or a paid banner ad on their site or whatever. And so I really worked hard to try and create like a different category for myself, or like put myself in a different bucket in their mind. But then the biggest challenge was always just getting prioritization, right? If these people, especially at the big companies, they're so busy, they're being pulled in so many different directions. And so I often have experienced like two key challenges with these partnerships. Number one is turnover. Like you'll make great progress. I think with Bye Bye Baby, we went through 9 rounds of pilots. And the reason we went through so many pilots is because we would like have a great pilot, and then we'd have a second follow-on pilot that was slightly bigger. And then we were working on a third pilot, and then the person would leave the company. And then it would take 6 months before they rehire somebody for that position. And then the new person comes in, you finally get on their calendar and they say, okay, this is interesting, let's do a pilot. And it's like, no, I've already done 2 pilots. They're like, well, I want to do my own pilot. So then you have to like start all over from scratch. And so that can be so frustrating. And especially as a startup, when you're burning cash every month. And like you have these really big possible opportunities and exciting partnerships on the horizon, but they're just taking so long, right? You're just losing cash every month. So that the turnover was always a key issue. And the second piece, like I said, was really the prioritization and the timing, in which they would often overpromise and underdeliver. And they think it's a great idea and they want to do it, but then getting them to really invest in the marketing can be really hard.
Well, I think you just kind of skipped over to the challenge part and talked about but that's great because you did answer like what's working well. Clearly, it is the partnerships that you have with the retailers, maybe the manufacturers too, and kind of like give them the marketing, and then they're more likely to use it and say thank you very much. And then and the other side of that is that it's also hard to work with them because of the turnover and because of expectation alignment, right? Any other like channels you wanted to call out that you've seen has worked really well for your business model? Any other challenges that you want to call out besides the partnerships?
Yeah, I mean, partnerships is definitely the key one for us. In terms of things that I think might be overrated or that I have yet to find success with, and not to dump on our good friend Gil, who was just on your podcast, but I'm like influencer marketing.
It's okay. We're all friends, right? We're all friends.
Yeah. I love Gil dearly. But I just find that there are influencers, like literally friends of mine who are influencers, and that is their career and their job. but their entire feed is just ads because that is their career. And so, they have beautiful photography and they have great, stories that they're telling. And they're obviously doing well enough to make a living. But I just think as a consumer, I am kind of really over influencer marketing. It just feels very canned at this point.
Yeah, I won't say anything more because he was a guest of mine. But he did sell the company, and he did mention that it's getting it's just a lot. There are a lot of players. It gets saturated, and then it becomes harder to stand out with that. So wanted to also ask you if there's any big aha moments for you. You mentioned like influencers. If you want to go into that a little bit deeper and say like maybe
I had an aha moment, which was, when I started working on, we internally call it Tot Squad 2.0. When we started working on Tot Squad 2.0, I sent an email out to a bunch of my friends who were new parents, just asking them, like, which of these services did you purchase? How much did you spend? Was it hard? Like just some consumer research, knowing that it was a very biased sample set of like my MBA classmates and people who have like very high powered careers. And it became very obvious because like in the survey results, we asked the income question and it was like 80% of respondents made over $250,000 a year. I'm like, damn, I need to be asking more of my friends to invest. Was my takeaway from that. But we lovingly started referring to that customer segment as the MBA moms, who have a lot of money. They're typically 2-career households. They want the best for their kids, and they're willing to outsource and invest in these types of services and providers. So when we were designing our branding and our new logo, we really were leaning in on this idea of appealing to this MBA mom segment. Not that all of our customers have MBAs, but just, again, it was a term of endearment. And then we started getting all this traction with Walmart, right? We were working with all these retailers. We've been working with Nordstrom, and Target contacted us, and Best Buy, and Buy Buy Baby, and Amazon, right? We were working with all the mass retailers in the baby industry. But Walmart seemed to be moving the fastest. And it just occurred to me, I think out of the 4 million babies born every year, about 600,000 families register, do a baby registry at Walmart. So if I were to go do paid customer acquisition, you would stereotype that on average, the typical Walmart shopper might live in a more rural area or be lower income on average. And so therefore, the lifetime value of those customers is lower. Right. So it's probably not going to be the customer that you're going to go pay to acquire. You'd rather go pay and acquire the MBA moms who have a lot of money to spend on a lot of services over time. But I said, but what if we're getting pulled, right? What if the pull is, okay, there's a lot of customers here. Maybe they don't spend as much per customer, but there is a large volume of them. What does that mean for our brand? Would we reevaluate the way we talk about our brand, the way our brand looks? And I feel like it's unresolved at this point, right? Like we're obviously hoping to launch with all of these different retailers, not just Walmart.com. But I just think it was an aha moment for me to realize that sometimes the brand you set out to build might get traction in a different direction than what you expected. And how do you plan for or react to that or lean into that to get that viral growth and traction that you need as a startup to be able to kind of raise the next round of funding or hit the next milestone that you promised your investors? So I don't know. I just thought that was an interesting aha for me, that like maybe we should think about that.
That is so interesting. And I have heard that when you start something and you're starting something fresh, that's kind of going away from what you already started, not, a while back. You may be thinking you're going in one direction. It's going to pivot and change and might look completely different, like 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So you just have to be like open to it, right? So that has come up too quite a bit. Awesome. I did have another question for you, and this is like, I don't know what brain I have. I have no excuse. But I wanted to ask you, because talking about targeting was really interesting, that you did that you talked to people, that you realized that you have potential with MBA moms, but then like the volume of customers that you get from Walmart. And I was going to mention, like, that's probably why you're bringing a marketing strategy person on, to help, like, what is the direction we should go in? Because you could go in one or the other. You'd probably be successful, but then what's the one that you should prioritize over the other, and why, right?
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. Great. Well, Jen, thank you for coming onto the show and for sharing your nuggets of information. And I know that you right now have your daughter, 2-year-old, right, Charlotte, and you're expecting another one. What does, like, how's like the family dynamic this year with having a child and having another one on the way and having this business? And it all kind of ties back to family and moms and all that. Like, how has that impacted you as a person, and like how things are going this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's been really hard for us. We had a beloved nanny who is over 70 years old. And obviously in March, she had to start quarantining as a high risk person. And we went, I think, 2 months with no childcare. And it was so hard because I was in the middle of Techstars, right? I'm going through this pivot. I was trying to sell the business. And like, just, it was a moment when I had a lot of career obligations, right? It was very much a lean into career type of moment. And on the family angle, we had lost our support structure. My husband is a filmmaker, which is why we live here in LA, for the Hollywood scene. And so fortunately, I guess, unfortunately, whatever, Hollywood was pretty shut down, and my husband was able to take on the bulk of childcare. But man, having an 18-month-old back in March was so hard. It's like a hard age. Like, you can't just set them in front of a screen yet. They don't have any attention span for that. So it was all hands on deck. I was trying to, like, schedule my meetings in the afternoon so I could watch her a little bit in the morning. And, just trying to juggle all of that was total madness. And now the scary part for me, being a pregnant mom, is that the new studies have come out showing that pregnant women who get COVID, 1 in 3 will end up in the hospital. And that is just a terrifying statistic that is really causing me more anxiety than is necessary. And then I had a potential pregnancy complication where I was thinking I might get put on bed rest and I was going to lose my mind. I mean, I am just such an active, on-the-go person. Busy.
I don't see you as like a bed rest person.
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh. Like, in my first pregnancy, the first 2 trimesters, I was in 15 cities. I was just on airplanes constantly, go, 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 go. And I was like, I guess the silver lining is that if I did get put on bed rest, it was like the best time in my entire life would probably be during winter of a global pandemic. So fortunately, it doesn't look like we're going to get put on bed rest. But I think that complication of kind of just juggling the external stress and anxiety of what's happening in the world with being a high risk person now myself has really made things complicated.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, 2020 needs to come to an end, and for whatever, I know that that new year doesn't really mean too much. It's just like the next day after that, right? But for some reason, it's just the symbolism of, let's just get over this year, move into the next one, and like fresh. Let's go fresh into it. So thank you, Jen. Thanks again. Wonderful talking to you. I'm so excited for what you've done with the business, where the business is going. Clearly you're providing like something that there's a need out there for it. And I am referring people to what you offer. As I hear there's a need.
One last plug. We just announced yesterday that our services are now FSA and HSA eligible. So for anybody out there who's got use it or lose it dollars on their flexible spending account, you can buy now a Tot Squad service and then hold on to it until after your baby arrives, or whenever you might need sleep consulting in the future, or lactation consulting or whatever. You can purchase through us with your FSA.
Wonderful. And if you want to reach out to Jen, you can find her on LinkedIn, Jen B. Saxton. And to find out more about Tot Squad, you can visit totsquad.com. So thank you, Jen. Thanks for coming on here. Great to see you.
You too. Take care.
Take care.